So the landscape of software development and engineering is drastically changing now in 2026. And you have different philosophies and perspectives on what it means to be a developer at this point. And one perspective that has really resonated with me is this idea that there are sort of three tracks right now when it comes to development. You have the track of the person who is mostly dealing with specs, is putting together the plan and the requirements for what an agent will then go out and implement and go out and build. And that is one track. You also have the track of the person who is more so building out the systems, the architecture, the infrastructure, the routing between models, and sort of laying the groundwork for these agents to operate. And then you have the third track, which would be the person least considered a developer in a non-traditional sense, that has very deep domain expertise, and because of AI is now able to build out his or her own tooling and products that are very tailored to what their industry needs and the pain points of what that profession or professionals who practice in the industry experience. And so each of those tracks, as I've explained it, you'll notice doesn't deal necessarily with the coding itself, right? It deals with planning, it deals with understanding architecture and maybe the engineering of systems, and it deals with having an understanding of subject matter. So I say this to say that actual coding aspect of things is slowly dying off, if you will. The skill set needed to thrive as we continue to move forward is more along the lines of management, orchestration, and wielding different tools available to get the job done. Now, part of that experience entails, in the case of building software, entails understanding what goes into building a front end, what goes into building a back end, understanding servers and databases. And when you think about the back end of an application, typically you are thinking about authentication, how you log in, how you log out, your database, where you're storing information, storage, where you're storing media like audio, video, and you have different solutions that are on the market. A bunch of which I've used over the last several years, from Supabase to Firebase. Convex is a popular one as well. But one that's really resonated with me, that I've now used for the back end of many of my projects and counting, and has such a frictionless experience, is a platform called InsForge. Now, InsForge brands themselves as the back end for Agentic Engineering. And I must say that it really holds true to this sort of framing. Now, what I like most about InsForge is that the connection to your development environment is so seamless. So if I go into my dashboard and I just pull up an example project. So I'm in a project. This is the first project that I tested out InsForge with. It's a project management platform that we're now using internally for my business. And with InsForge, all you have to do is make a basically one command connection through an MCP server. If you've watched my earlier videos, you understand that MCPs are short for Model Context Protocol. And I look at them like plugins for your AI agents. The difference between these MCPs and traditionally APIs is that MCPs have a bunch of different tools that come with that connection you can make. And so in the case of InsForge, these tools include being able to create tables, being able to set up functions, being able to connect AI models even. So you can actually integrate ChatGPT, integrate Gemini in the case of what I have for this particular application. But you can also connect Claude Sonnet and Opus, and they have all the top models for the most part. They've updated here with Opus 4.6 and Sonnet 4.6, Gemini 3.1, which just launched last week. They have some of the open source models, Minimax and DeepSeek. And so there are many things that you can do with InsForge. But if I go to the top right here where it says MCP connected, you can see that I already have my MCP connected. But if I click on here, you'll see that the way you would typically connect this MCP is you would either one click to whatever the development environment you're working with is. So I work with Cursor a lot. So all I would have to do is just click add to Cursor, and then I could copy this prompt and then paste it into the composer within Cursor, the Cursor composer, and then the agent will actually go ahead and set it up for you. Now, typically, the way that I connect MCPs that I've just found to work best is I will actually go and take the MCP JSON. You have the MCP JSON here. I have it blurred out here because it does include sensitive information like the API keys. But basically, you would just copy that MCP configuration and then also paste in the prompt, and you could paste this in to the agent. So if I go over to Cursor and let me actually pull up a current project that I'm working on, you would paste it in to the composer right here. You would copy the mcp.json, paste it right here into this chat, and then also paste a prompt in. And so then it can go and fetch the documents. And these environments now are able to do web search. So it could go and look up the InsForge documentation. But typically what I'll do is I'll actually get the documentation myself. So I will paste the URL to the actual docs. So you might say something like, I'm using InsForge as my backend platform. Here is the documentation. And then, here is the InsForge MCP configuration. And then you would paste in that JSON. And then from there, it could basically handle it itself. You may want to make sure that you're using just a strong model to ensure that the connection happens successfully. Right now I'm on auto mode, but you could use any of the available models within Cursor or whatever coding model you're using, Claude Code, which is actually what I have set up here currently. I also like to use Codex. And so that is all you have to do to connect it. It's just one or two action steps you need to take, and then it connects to your project. Now, once it's connected, it is simply a matter of speaking out the commands that you want to do. And I've actually found that I haven't had to really specify too much exactly the way I need the back end to operate. InsForge actually takes care of a lot of that. So in the case of this, this is a project management platform, as I mentioned, I built out, and I actually built it out originally to test out InsForge, and it's sort of like then turned into a thing to where I'm actually now using this experiment. Well, it started as an experiment as my new project management system, to the point where I've started transferring over information I've been using in platforms like Airtable and even Notion to this platform that I've called Alino. And so Alino has a notes section, Align Notes, almost like what you can see in an Apple Notes. It has a Kanban board. It has a way of being able to track your timing. It's a time tracker. So if you're familiar with platforms like Harvest, it has a calendar. It has an ideation board where you can literally use almost like a Miro. So it combines different facets from honestly a bunch of different tools that I'm able to now use for my project management. And quite frankly, a lot of this was made possible because of the ease of the back end kind of handling itself. Like if I want to make a change to, let's say, I don't know, update the planner, this weekly planner here, I wanted to do something that involved actually having to make a change on the back end. So let's say wanted to add a tab that would allow me to store additional information, maybe to the right of the calendar here, for example. And so now that's, of course, information that would have to be stored within InsForge. Typically, I don't have to worry too much about specifically doing anything within the database for the change to happen. The nature of the connection is that the agent would just know what changes to make, whether it has to make an additional table or do anything else in order for that integrate for that connection between the section that gets created on the front end and what gets created on the back end to happen. And when there is ever any sort of challenge, it's usually like a pretty quick fix. To speak on some of the other sort of things that you can do with InsForce, I've mentioned the AI. You have functions that you can create, edge functions, database functions. Then, of course, you have your tables like you'll see in other sort of kinds of databases. You can also do a visual of everything that is within InsForge. And all overall, I think what is just important to know is that it cuts out a lot of the fluff that you find in other platforms. When you think about the back end, again, you think about authentication, you think about database, you think about storage. So you have that here, right? You have that storage, you have the database, and then authentication. They make it so easy, right? Just copy the prompt, you paste it in. It provides instructions for how to go about creating the authentication. You can use a couple of different methods. Right now, I have Google and GitHub and email for the authentication methods, but you could also have other social media as well. And so it's very seamless, and it makes incorporating a back end pleasant. And I believe that it is very vibe code friendly, I would say. And also their plans are very generous as well. They're the different tiers for the platform. So there's no wonder why I would say that I've really been sticking with InsForge for the past few months. I've been kind of raving about it to a lot of different people, and it has a feel that you will feel comfortable with if you've used platforms like Supabase or even Firebase. And again, that framing around it being the back end for the agentic era that we're in, it resonates with that MCP connection, with the sort of straightforward prompting. And so if you're looking for a way of sort of simplifying what that process looks like to add in your back end, I highly recommend you take a look at InsForge. So I'll have a link to InsForge in the description. You can go ahead and check that out. Hope you enjoyed this video and that it was informative. But with that said, for those of you guys based in the US on the East Coast, I hope you brave this blizzard that's about to go down. I'm ready for it to be sunny outside. That's just me. But anyway, that's all I got for you. I will see you guys next time.